Morning, everybody. As we go to the Chitas of today. Today is Wednesday. We're holding in the fourth reading of the portion of Kisavai. We're holding chapter 27, verse number 1. Some layman, Moshe Rabbeinu commanded the Jewish people, the elders of the Jewish people. Layman is saying, Shmer mitzvahs, be careful with the commandments, which I'm commanding you today. Now she says, Shemer is Lashon Heva, is a present. On the past, it's not the future, but right now. There'll come a day you cross to Jordan. Which God is giving to you. You should establish big stones. You should plaster it with the lime. Now she says this was set up in the Jordan River. Afterwards, you must take it out, the other ones from there, and with them build the altar in Mount Avel. It follows that there were 3 instances of boulders constructed. 12 were set up in the Jordan River, the same number in Gilgal, both serving as a memorial to the crossing, and the same number was put up in Mount Avel. These being the same boulders that would be taken later to Gilgal. As this is all brought down in Masechta Sotah, exactly how this process went. Safta lemas divrei haTorah, they should write upon them the words of the Torah. For you, you shall come into the land which God gives you. It had these monuments that reminded the Jews of why they came into the land of milk and honey, which God commanded, spoke to you, to your fathers. Verse number 4, when you're going to cross the Jordan, establish these stones in the mountain of Avel. You should again plaster them with lime. Verse number 5, you should build there an altar for God. It should be made a altar out of stones. You shouldn't put upon it an iron. You shouldn't cut it with a metal. You should take complete stones. Tivus mizbach Hashem alekecha. Valisa olav eilos, and you'll bring upon it eilos Hashem alekecha when you cross the Jordan. You should bring karbanos. Zafta shlamim. You should also bring over there peace offerings. Achalta sham. You should eat there. You shall celebrate before God. Verse number 8, V'chasafta alavonim is called divra Torah. You should write upon these stones the entire Torah, Bayit Heitev, very clearly. As she says, Bayit Heitev means b'shivin l'shenis in 70 languages. This is all brought down the Gemara exactly what means the whole Torah. That would be a lot of stones, but and also 70 languages. Moshe Rabbeinu spoke to the Leviim and the Kohanim and told the Jewish people, saying, pay attention and listen. Shema Yisrael, listen, Israel. Today you have become a nation. Hashem alekecha, to God, your God. Haskes means to listen. Eitis, pay attention. What means today you became a nation? Became a nation 40 years ago. Again, the Rashi says, Moshe Rabbeinu keeps on saying Hayem because every day, today, you have to say today you became a nation. Every day we must regard it as if every day you entered into covenant with God. So today you became into the covenant. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling every Jew today you Zayin Elul. Today you became a nation. Shabbat b'kel Hashem alekecha, you should hearken to the voice of God. Vasisas mitzvos v'chokosim, you should do its commandments, which I'm commanding you today. And that completes the Chumash for today. We go to the 15th letter of the Alter Rebbe, which is a very Kabbalistic letter. And I see over here, he gives a a big introduction to this letter. Let's go quickly through this introduction. The subject of the letter is the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus and the other worlds, because every world in Kabbalah has 10 sfirot, 10 manifestations, 10 illuminations, 10 vessels, many different names, many different interpretations to the word sfira. Is a fundamental both in Kabbalah and Chassidus, this concept. All worlds are both created and conducted by the means of the spheres, by these emanations, by which the various attributes of divinity become manifest. Thus we find in the discourse beginning Pasach Le'Yo, which we say every Friday, which is a statement of Elijah the prophet. You are the one who brought forth 10 garments. Over there in Pasach Le'Yo, over there it's not called spheres, it's called levushim, garments, and we call them 10 spheres, through which to direct the hidden worlds, which are not revealed, and the revealed worlds. 10 spheres demonstrate both God's infinite power, koyach habli gvul, and his finite power, koyach hagvul. You should know these Hebrew words. Koyach habli gvul is the koyach, the power within habli gvul, the infinite power of God, and koyach hagvul. You'll find that in Chassidus, these expressions. For to point out the author of Avodas HaKodesh, the Oir Ein Sof, the infinite Ein Sof light of God, is Shleimus Udekula, is the completeness of everything. Shleimus Udekula, or the most complete entity of all, Ein Sof. Hence, just as he is finite, infinite power, so does he have finite power. Or if you were to say that he possesses infinite power but lacks finite power, then you minimize his completeness. So that's why the Eibishter in Kabbalah is called Shleimus Udekula. He has everything. He has infinite, he has finite, he has everything. Everything is in God. Because if you say God is missing something, then he's not complete. God is everything. Everything is within him. And of course, he's the creator of everything. And he's the most complete entity over them all. And that's, you don't find in everything, anything out of God is incomplete. Because there's something that he needs. So even the spiritual worlds are also missing something. Everybody needs something. It's within the spheres that the infinite, that infinity and the finite first coalesce, as it were, in order for the worlds to be created and directed. The spheres are composed of both oiros, lights, and kalim, vessels. The oiros of the spheres are simply and formless. That's the infinite part of the vessel of the sphere. Since they are not limited by specific characteristics such as chachma or chesed, that's the light that reflect God's infinite power as revealed within the spheres. What creates chesed is the vessel. The kalim, by contrast, do have a specific characteristic, and thereby reveal God's power in a limited and finitude. It is thus through the spheres that Ein Sof, which is infinite light, the definition of infinity, creates and conducts the finite worlds. So that's the whole concept. So you have chesed. Chesed is already a concept that's not gevura. So it's already a keli. You say the word chesed, it means that when you Ein Sof, you have the oira chesed. Oira chesed is not chesed. It's oir. Cannot really define it as chesed. Oir pashut, that's what you call it. Oir pashut, simple light. Or Oir Ein Sof, an infinite light. Since both Oiros and Kalim, which together comprise the Sphira, are utterly united with Oir Ein Sof, for he and his Oiros are one, now you have the next step. And the Zohar says that in Atzilus everything is one. As within him everything is one. Oiros and Kalim, that there's such a thing as an Oir. Oir already is already concept also. So Oir Ein Sof is already a concept. But okay, it's most close. It's the most closest to Oid and Seif, but it's still Oid. When you say Oid, it's not Choshev. So the Eibushter really is Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's something that's above and beyond. Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. It's above even Oid and Seif. It's above even Oid and Kled. It's Atzmus. That's why in Kabbalah it's called Atzmus. Not Oid and Seif is already a concept. Even though it's an infinite concept, but it's already a concept. That's how it's infinite and not finite. Atzmus has everything. So now the closest is Oid Ein Sof. Since Oid Ein Sof, infinite light is connected to the vessels of Atzilus, therefore in Atzilus, the Oid and the vessel are only one. It's hard to differentiate between the Oid and the Keli. So since both Oid and Keli, which Begenika are utterly united with Oid Ein Sof, for he and his Oidus are one, as brought down in Zoya, and him and his Kalim are one, in Atzilus, the whole one. It is possible for the worlds to be created and animated by Oid and Seif and still be finite because it's already there already. In Oid and Seif, you have Caleb. But over there, in Oid and Seif, it's one with the Oid, and therefore it's hard to, but it's there. So there's finite in infinity. In infinity, there's already a concept of finite. As for example, as explained above, the spheres are infused within the capability for finite, infused with a capability of finitude. So there's a concept of finitude. There's a concept of a keli within the Oid, and that's why the keli can handle the Oid, because the keli, the vessel, is in the Oid, is in the light. The guarding of Oid Seif within the spheres is known as man, as the verse says, and upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness of man. So man, that's why the Kabbalah says that Adam is Eilam Katan, because in the Adam, so to say, in man, human, is within him everything. He's like a small world. So that's why we learn the Tanya, that a human being is made up of Esespheres. Because it's all based on the statement of the chariot, the Merkava, which is brought down in Ezekiel, which is brought down in Kabbalah, in the Zoya. Adam Shalakise, pre-mortal man. We mentioned this yesterday also. So Kabbalah deals now mainly with the spheres as they exist in the supernal worlds, as the world of Atzilus. In addition to above, Chassidus gives a close attention to spheres as far as they appear in the 10 corresponding faculties of the Jewish soul. That's what the Tanya. So Kabbalah doesn't talk so much about the neshama. It talks more about the world of Atzilus. If you read Pasach Le'yo, which we read every end of Shabbos, it talks about the essence spheres of the world of Atzilus. The Alter Rebbe brought it down to the concept of the human soul. That the human, just like the Zohar talks about the essence spheres, the way they are in the world of Atzilus and ultimately in the world of Bria and Yitzir Asiyah, the Alter Rebbe says that these essence spheres is also in every human being. Every God, every soul, every human being. Okay, that's where Chassidus goes, where the Alter Rebbe goes. Thus, on one hand, the midah, the mortal attributes of a spiritual emotion of chesed, for example, derived from the supernal sphere of chesed, and so on. Come to verse 2, when a Jew utilizes 10 soul powers within him in his divine service here below, he's able to affect their source, which is what the source of my chesed within my soul, its source is chesed atzilus. That's all that's what the Alter Rebbe wants to say. So in essence, when since the Alter Rebbe takes this concept down and brings it down to the soul, but what is the source of my chesed, of my neshama? It's chesed with the world of Atzilus, because that's where chesed started in Kabbalah. That's where the originated chesed. The first chesed of the concept of chesed is chesed in the world of Atzilus. And why do I have chesed in my soul? Is because of chesed in the world of Atzilus. So that means that the second I do chesed in this world, ultimately it's a chain event. It is a reaction. There's as the Rebbe we want to, it's like an atomic reaction. That in the world of Atzilus, you have that expression in the world of Atzilus, chesed in the world of Atzilus. The knowledge So why does it? So this is an important thing. Chassidus wanted you should have that knowledge. The Zohar, people couldn't understand the Zohar. But once the Alter Rebbe brought it down into the nefesh, the neshama, now we can have some kind of comprehension because we understand what chesed is. We understand what chesed is, and we also understand what kindness is, and what severity is, and how they come together, and how they are separate, and how they intermingle, and how to build chesed. We all can comprehend it because we all have midas chesed. We know what the attribute of kindness is, and we know what the attribute of severity is. We don't have to go to learn about the Atzilus. We can know within our body. That's the whole concept of Imsari Echselakad, what the Maggid said, that from my body I see godliness, so I don't have to go to Atzilus. I can go to myself and I can understand Atzilus. But really, why do we need to know that there's Atzilus, that there's Chesed in the world of Atzilus? The answer is the knowledge of understanding 10 spheres above, as well as the knowledge of involvement in the world, is itself a great and lofty mitzvah. To know godliness. Even though you should know yourself, but you should know that yourself is connected to God. That the truth is, my chesed is a godly chesed. It's not that I created chesed. My chesed in this world is connected to the chesed of God. Chesed of the will of Atzilus is connected to the ultimate concept of Atzmos. That's what really my chesed is. My chesed is connected to the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because that's where it comes from. As the Alter Rebbe writes below, in Kuntas Achrim, that will come soon to the last part of the Tanya, called Kuntas Achrim. Really, the Alter Rebbe goes and explains deep concept of Chassidus in Kabbalah. This understanding leads to the love and fear of God. That's what we're trying to accomplish. The Alter Rebbe says, to know God, and to go into learn Chassidus and even Kabbalah is to pasha create the mitzvah of Avos Hashem, to love the Eibishter and to have awe of God, and that's a mitzvah. So how can you love God and have awe of God if you're not going to learn? If you're not going to comprehend these Kabbalistic concepts and these spiritual concepts, you'll never understand what means true love. Because you can't say I love God without knowing God. It's not possible. It's impossible for a human being to do that. So a human being needs to know God to the best of his capability, so he should be able to create whatever love of God he can create in his reality, in his understanding, which are the source which is source and root that motivate the performance of mitzvah, which ultimately, as the Alter Rebbe explains, that even though I could do a mitzvah without love and fear of God, but I want to have my mitzvah to fly, and I need to have the love and fear and awe of God, which is the wings of the mitzvah. So therefore, not only is it important to know God, to create the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael, Avos Hashem, love of God, and Yiras Hashem, fear and awe of God, but it also actually changes everything I do. So therefore, every mitzvah I do with Avos Hashem, it's a whole different mitzvah. And that's very important, because it says you should love God and you should serve God with joy. So that's why it's important to learn Chassidus. And not only important to learn Chassidus, but to meditate in Chassidus and comprehend Chassidus and Kabbalah to the best of each person's capability. So as I explained, Likutei Torah. Moreover, a comprehension of the spheres and their corresponding soul powers inspires a Jew's spiritual service with vitality and elevates it. This can be a letter of the Alter Rebbe impressing on people, which was a great struggle in his days, great opposition to the learning of Chassidus. In his days, it was extremely strong opposition to that. It was almost like a war, as we all know. Tonight is the Alter Rebbe's birthday. We all know Yitzchak Kislev, the Alter Rebbe struggle in the spreading of Chassidus, that the wellsprings of Chassidus will be throughout the world, which the Alter Rebbe accomplished, and ultimately through the other Beim of Chabad, which ultimately Chassidus is today throughout the world. But in that time, it was a great struggle for the Alter Rebbe. Tes Vav, we're going to the 15th letter of the Alter Rebbe. To understand the allegory and the metaphor. Words of the wise in their riddles, Melitza, the Chidasim. I mean, sometimes, again, the Kabbalah talks in sign languages and in a little bit of a riddle and a story, exactly, like the Gemara, all the stories of the Gemara, they're all there to tell us something, to teach us something. Being an Asfiris, respected as Sfiris. So the commentaries note that the allegory and metaphor refers to the written Torah, which includes the allegories of the passages which are true both an elusive and literal level. Ein Pshat Remesh just safe. We all know that the Gemara says that every letter in the Torah, every word in the Torah, every pasuk in the Torah has a paradis, the garden, and you have the simple meaning, and you have the remez, and you have the drush, the metaphor, and you have the side. So it's a whole concept. Example is seek life with a woman whom you love. Pasuk says that although in this context, woman is a metaphor for wisdom. So that's the pshat, is seek life for a woman to get married. Everybody should get married and be happily married. But really, Shlomo Melech doesn't need to tell us to get married. Shlomo Melech is telling us a woman is wisdom. Seek wisdom, and which you should love. That's what Shlomo Melech is talking about. That's the metaphor. The verse we take is a simple meaning as well. It means both. What's Isha, Matzah Tov? You're going to say it's also a statement of Shlomo Melech of finding a woman is finding good. It can mean the simple meaning. Why does Shlomo Melech need to tell us that? That finding a woman is finding good. That we all know. But Shlomo Melech might be telling us finding a woman means finding your neshama, finding Torah, etc. And finding the Torah is finding good. And so everything is in a simple and everything is in two. The commentaries note further that the words of the wise and their riddles refer to the oral Torah. The words of the wise refer to the things that are revealed to all, while the riddles refer to those that which need to be revealed and solved. And that's where you have sometimes the stories of the Torah, the Gemara brings out stories, interesting stories, and you have to go deeper. There's a famous book, Ayin Yankiv, that brings all the stories of the Gemara that have to be. The Gemara wants to tell us a story, and it wants to give some kind of analogy. Applying to this phrase, to the Sfiris, but the Alter Rebbe is connecting it to Sfiris. Alter Rebbe is indicating that Sfiris contain all four levels. Just like everything in the Torah has four levels, so too the concept of a Sfira that's brought down in Kabbalah also has four levels. That's why I say there's many ways of interpreting the word Sfira. Allegory, metaphorically, the worlds of the wise, the riddles. So when you take the word Sfira, you take a word Sfira, you take it from the Zohar, the word Sfira, which is Teresh Baal Peh, the Zohar is Teresh Baal Peh, the oral law. You have to look at it in all ways. Simple meaning, Sfira to mean to be shy. That's why it's called Ur. But there's many ways you can interpret this word, because there are four levels of everything. The Sfiras are found both in the spiritual worlds as well as in the Jewish soul. It's known throughout the land, for the mouths of the heavenly saints, great rabbis, who are in Gan Eden. To bring something to enable us to comprehend the verse. This is the Alter Rebbe's teacher, the Magid, said of explain the verse Mipsari Echse Elakah. So from my flesh I see God. Let's go back just 1 second. 11. Where's that? Job. So it's in Eiv. I always try to remember, where does that verse say? So it's in Tanakh. In Eiv says, Mipsari Echse Elakah. From my body I see God. That's a loaded verse. That is a loaded verse. What does it mean? And there's many interpretations to that verse. This is the interpretation of the Magid, Alter Rebbe's teacher. This verse speaks of the partially understand that the Eiv is telling a Jew, you can see godliness from your body. In nefesh, What means from your body? From your soul. The Yev is telling the person, the prophet is telling the person, you can see God from your soul. That's what the Maggid teaches, interprets the verse. You want to see God? You don't have to go up a mountain. You want to see God? You can see it from my neshama. I don't have to go very far. My neshama is in my body, and I can push it. If I understand my neshama, I understand God. That's how the Maggid interprets this verse. So this refers to the dimension of the soul that animates the body. The Rebbe notes that the essence of the soul, like the spirituality which transcends this world at large, remains incomprehensible to man, so to the neshama also. So your essence, your neshama, you'll never understand. You can understand the way the neshama life is the body and the characteristics of it, but the yechidaship and everything, it's above comprehension. It's above comprehension. You don't comprehend the neshama like you don't comprehend God. As also the statement of the sages on the Blessed Mary, in the verse it says, Barchi nafshi, that's in Tillim. Barchi nafshi es Hashem, which means my soul will praise God. Barchi nafshi. So my soul, I can see for my soul. What means the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just like the Holy One, blessed He permeates the worlds, half of the neshama, so to the soul permeates the body. This is the Gemara. Since the sages go on to enumerate other similarities between the soul and God, right? It's the Gemara. It's not even Kabbalah. It is clear that from the soul, that's all the Alter Rebbe wants to prove, that in this, even the Gemara, Tosh Bapeh, Talmud, says that there's some connection between the soul and God. We're able to catch a glimpse, even though it's not, a soul is a created entity, God is infinite, a soul, but there's some concept, it's a metaphor. Psari echzeh, that's why the word is echzeh, I can see, I can gaze. I don't know the essence of God, I don't know the essence of my neshama. But even the neshama that is a created concept by God, God will never comprehend. But I can have an echzeh, I can have some kind of an imagination. So since they got the enumerated connection, so able to catch a glimpse, that's echzeh, a glimpse of things that exist above. But how indeed, the question is, how indeed can a pastor compare a soul to God? Alter Rebbe therefore goes on to quote the Zohar. The soul derives from the innermost aspect of God. That's what goes back to the beginning of Tanya. Chelik elakami mal mamash. Thus sharing characteristics of the supernal spheres with divinity itself. So there's some kind of it's not it, but there's some. It's what we don't know really. We therefore able to understand godness through the analogy of the soul. The Alter brings down the pasuk he brought down in the second chapter of Tanya. God created man. It says, the verse says in Genesis, and he blew in his nostrils a soul of life, nishmas chai. And the Zohar says on that verse of the pasuk, man denafach metayv. Now, what means why is the pasuk? Every other creation in the world, the 6 days of creation, every day it says, and God said, let there be cows, let there be animals, let there be trees. Suddenly, when it comes to man, we find two different concepts. We find the concept of his body, and then it says suddenly, Vayiva wanted to say everything has the spirit of God, the trees and the rocks and the water. Why, when it comes to the water, it says let there be water, let there be trees, let there be and suddenly when it comes to man, it seems like we have a whole different reality. We have God takes the earth, he forms it into a body, and then he blows within him a breath of life. So why does it say that by man? God gives life to every entity in the world. So the Zohar says there's a difference between man and the rest of creation, between humans and the rest of creation. And that is, the rest of creation comes out of speech. As the verse says, that Asara my mother's Nivra'ilam, which is the body of man too. The rest of creation was created through speech. Outer expression, whatever speech means, and that's where you can go into interpretation, whatever speech means. Outer expression, chitzonius, vessels, etc. That's where Kabbalah Chassidus goes with. When it comes to the neshama, it comes from the breath of man. It comes not from his speech, it comes from his breath. So when it comes, what is the difference between speech and breath? The breath, really, speech is breath. You cannot speak without a hevel, without your breath. But the breath is the oid. That's like the oid. The breath is the inner aspect. So that's what the meaning is. The Eibishter created the world through an outer expression. The Eibishter created the neshama through an inner expression. So the body of man, the physical body, created through, like he created the rest of the world, he created from earth. As the Pasuk says. But he created the soul of the Yifa Ba'apa Nishmas Chaim, the neshama, Nishmas Chaim. The neshama is a living thing. Why is the neshama a living thing in comparison to the body? Because the neshama is connected more to the essence of God. Whatever that means. But we can hear the pasuk what the Alter Rebbe is showing, which he said in the second chapter of Tanya, that the neshama is different. It's different. The soul was created from the breath of God, so to say. The will was created from the speech of God, and you got to come to understand the differences between these two concepts, and then you'll understand the difference in neshama and your body. So the Zohar says, "Man de nafach." Why does it say that God blew within him, within man? Because when it's God needs to blow, what is he? He has to exert himself, so to say, to put the soul of man in him. What does it mean? The meaning is, as Isaiah says, it means when somebody blows, he blows for his essence, for his inner. So it's an inner expression. Your neshama is an inner expression. Your body is an outer expression. And now you have to comprehend what's inner, what's outer, and that's where he goes pnimius, chitzonius, keli, etc., etc. You can go on with this forever. Okay? So unlike speech, we utilize external aspect of the speaker's breath, because everything comes from breath. So your speech also comes from breath. Blowing amidst the innermost breath. That's the difference. So if you understand the difference between pnimius and chitzonius, inner and outer, kli, you understand these differences, you'll understand the difference between a neshama and a guf. Between a body and a soul. Thus, Scripture states that he blew into his nostrils a soul of life. It means to indicate that the soul derives from the innermost aspect of godliness. Again, we're giving you words. You cannot give you definitions per se, because these are spiritual concepts. As explained in Geras HaTeshuvah. I feel a nefesh tasiyah, even the nefesh of soul. So you might say, but I have as the Alter Rebbe said in Tanya itself, that there are different levels of souls. You have the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu, and you have the neshama of simple people. So the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu comes to the world of Atzilus. You have the neshama of simple people who comes to the world of action. Lowest grade of Asiyah, the lowest world. They derive the union. Every soul is created. Just like in the world of a soul, a body and the soul is created through the connection of the masculine and the feminine, so too in the neshama is created lamaila. Because in the worlds, in the upper worlds, it's also masculine and feminine, right? You have Zah, Zeir Ampin, and you have Malchus. So Zah is the masculine, Shisha Midas is the masculine, and they come together with Malchus. Now you have the creation. Zah and Malchus, these two entities, the masculine and feminine, they come together and we have creation of souls. So the union of Zah, acronym of Zeir Ampin, which is the bracket of 6 masculine midas, chesed, gevura, these are all masculine actions. And then you have the receiver of these, which is Malchus. Malchus is the receiver, is the feminine part of the world. So Malchus receives everything, develops everything, like the feminine in this world too. Receives everything, develops everything, creates everything, gives birth to everything. So too in the spiritual worlds. With Nukva, the feminine attribute, which is called Malchus, again, if you learn this of Asiya. So Nefesh of the world of Asiya is born of the union of the above masculine and feminine midas. This union being called Yichud, Zivug, Zun. You'll get these words, Zun. Za and Nukva. Zun is an acronym for Za, which is Zayd Ampin, which is in Aramaic. Zayd Ampin means short faces, which is the 6 midas, Chesed, Gevurah, Tferes, Netzach, Chayid, Yisoid. The 6 midas is Za in Kabbalah, which is the attribute of the masculine attributes, and they all come together, Za Nukva. They all come together with the feminine side of the world, and that's Malchus. And together, if they have a good union, you have the birth of everything comes into the world. That's why I said mention yesterday, Chava. She is the Chava is the mother of everything. Malchus is the mother of everything. Now, but what we're missing one thing. We're missing Chachma. We're missing the Chachma and Bina. What's the Chachma and Bina? So that's what now you have Chachma and Bina. We have Zah and Malchus, but now we have Chachma and Das. Chachma and Bina. Meichin Shalem, Yibechilis Chaya, and the Neshama, Zayin, Ampim, V'Nukva. And the union of Meichin, Chabad, of the acronym, an acronym for the intellectual soul faculties of Chachma and Bina, and Das together constituting the Meichin of Zah and Nukva, the world of Asiya. So which is the Chaya and the Neshama of Zah and Nukva. So you have Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya. Nefesh is Malchus, is the feminine. Neshama, Ruach is the masculine, is the spirit, is the Chaya, Neshama, and the Chaya is the Moichin, is the intellect, which is the wisdom and understanding of the Neshama. And then you have Yechidah Nefesh, which is the essence of the soul. Oirein Seif, which is the infinite part of the soul. So now you have the whole makeup of the whole Esses Sfiris in your Neshama. That's all the Rebbe is trying to show you. That you have Pashit, because in my Neshama, I Pashit have what the Zohar talks about. Every world, you have it in your Neshama. So it's interesting, you should know that Chachma and Bina is also masculine and feminine. But in Zohar, Chachma and Bina is two things that never part. So they're united. Then you have it where they separate and come together. So that's what happened in creation. Adam and Chava were united. Then the Eibush separated them. And then they came together. So too in your Neshama. You have Chachma and Bina, they're united. Then they come down into Midas, now they're separate. We have Zah as masculine, and they have to come united with Malchus, with the Nukva, which is the feminine. And then you can have true creation. When they're united, we can't have true creation. As a Chachma and Bina, nothing can be created. When they can come into two separate entities and reunite, now you have creation. That's the general teaching of the concept of separation brings creation. Unity per se doesn't, if things were united to begin with, they would never bring creation. We need separation to bring creation. Because the creation is going to come through their unity. Again, that's what we mentioned yesterday in the Alter Rebbe's letter. What happens in Rosh Hashanah? Or what happens in every Rosh Hashanah? What happens is everything is elevated, separated, and then they come down together. On Kir Shaifa, we bring everything back together. And when we bring everything back together, we bring Bnias HaMalchus, we rebuild Malchus, we bring Zah into Malchus, and that creates a new reality, new year. These, in turn, are the external aspects of Kalim and Nukva Batzil, because ultimately that's the lower concept, comes into the lower aspect, even Atzilus, Malchus Tatzilus. So for Kalim of Zah and Nukva of Atzilus, illuminate and are infused within the spheres of the world of Asiya. So the spheres of the world of Asiya are the external aspect of the Kalim of Zah and Nukva of Atzilus. So ultimately, because we're talking about Asiya over here, so ultimately, how does Asiya, in the world of Asiya, Zah and Nukva come together in the world? Because it comes together in the world of Atzilus. Everything has to come from a higher level. So since it comes together from the world of Atzilus, in the world of Atzilus, you don't see the vessels of Zah and Nukva coming together. So over there, it's an iris. Where do you see this world coming together? Actually, Zah, the attributes of Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Chayid, Yesod come together in the world of Malchus. That's in the world of Asiya. Where do you actually see it in this world? Is in the humanity, is ultimately in the physical world. There you see, that's why marriage in Jewish law is Kedusha, because there you see the ultimate manifestation in the world of having Shalom Bayis, two entities coming together, Zah and Malchus coming together. You see that in reality in Shalom Bayis of a Jew, of a person. But in Atzilus, it's a spiritual concept. It's happening a spiritual concept. So what's happening? That's what it says. I mean, at a chasana, worlds are colliding. Not only worlds in this world, spiritual worlds are colliding. In the world of Atzilus, there's coming together, Zah and Nukva. That's what's happening in the most strong way. Is happening at this wedding. Sheina Lukus Mamish, because in Atzilus, the vessels, Malchus and Zah are ungodliness. So therefore, you don't see the difference between Zah and Malchus in the world of Atzilus because of their spirituality. Both the vessel and the item, their spirituality over here, as it comes lower and lower and lower. Now you see the difference between the Oid and the Keli. You see the difference between Mashpia and Makabel, between the giver and the receiver. You see the difference between a man and a woman, not only in the way they look, but the way they act. And now we're bringing them together. And we're trying to create, that not that there's them together, that they have Shalom Bayis, that they create a unity, that they create a harmony. That's why it says, Abishti couldn't find a better vessel of a bracha than the vessel of Shalom Bayis. When the masculine and feminine come together and they can work together. But why we're trying to accomplish this unity and this oneness? Because we're trying to reveal Eid Saif. That's the whole purpose. The whole purpose of bringing Eid and Kalim together is to reveal the infinite light of God. Which is all why? Because in the world of Atzilus, everything comes from Chachma, as we mentioned yesterday too. Everything comes from wisdom. So we're trying to reveal the wisdom of God, which the wisdom of God is Eid Saif, is an infinite light. Why? Because him and his light is one. So therefore, by revealing the wisdom of the world of Atzilus, you're revealing the essence of God. Because it's very hard in the world of Atzilus to separate between God and his light. But since Spheres of Atzilus, our internal aspect is Spheres of Asiya, the infinite Ein Sof is thus vested within the sphere. So ultimately, this Ein Sof is not only going to be vested in the world of Asiya, in the world of Atzilus, it's going to be vested in the world of Asiya. And it's ultimately going to come down into this world. Because who creates the world of Asiya? Every one of us. We're creating that. We're doing it in this world, which creates this entity in the world of Asiya. And it creates it in the world of Yitzhak, and it creates in the world of Bri, and it creates in the world of Atzilus. And it's ultimately we are the one who created. So we're the ones who bring this Eid and Sof down, whether we see it or not. If you understand what I just said, after that it says in Kabbalah, what happens, we're talking about the spiritual worlds, but ultimately it happens in the human being. That's the point. I don't have to go to world of Asiya. to do it. I don't have to go to the world of Atzilus to do it. Mipsari, I can do it myself. So whatever's happening in the world of Atzilus, Alter Rebbe is trying to tell you, whatever's happening, the world is happening because I'm doing it. That's the teaching of Baal Shem Tov. Mipsari Asalaka. For my own body, I can have this concept. I can bring down into my neshama and into the world Oid Ein Sof. Because everything's happening from me, through me. So therefore, that's a teaching of the Maggid. That therefore the soul derives for the spheres. It follows that the infinite light of God, because that's what Atzilus happens in the world of Atzilus, and it happens in the world of Bria, and it happens in the world of Yitzir, it happens in the Yitzir, and it happens in your soul too. That when I bring together things and I do everything the right way, boom, I reveal within this reality. It ain't safe. I don't reveal some kind of my small action. I reveal it ain't safe, an infinite light of God, the Chachma of the Eibishter, which is revealed into my action. Because the Oid and Seif is enclosed in the Chachma that I'm doing right now. I have to give life to this to the person. So therefore, my friends, Alter Rebbe just said, and therefore, everybody, if you understand what I just said, everybody can have a little bit of an understanding in the workings of Sfiras Elyonis, upper Sfiras above. Shekula me'iris b'neshmasei, because they all the upper worlds shines in my neshama, aklula mehem, which comes from them. So therefore, I can have a little bit of an understanding of the way the upper worlds work in my neshama itself, and the way the works in my soul. Since the soul derives from the 10 spheres and hence comprise of 10 corresponding faculties, man can arrive at an understanding at the supernal spheres through contemplating the dynamics within his own soul. What beautiful. What a very deep teaching, but something that everybody, as Alter Rebbe says, everybody needs to learn. This is the teaching of the Baal Shem, of the Maggid, the teaching of the Alter Rebbe. Verse of Eov, that from my body I have the capability. And if the pasuk says from my body I have the capability, it means I have to find that capability to be able to comprehend the workings of God in my life. That ends the Tanya of the day, my dear friends. Today is the 17th day of the month, which is chapter 83 to chapter 87. You do those 5 chapters, you do the chitas of the day. So here is the Yom Yom of the day. Now, the Yom Yom is written, when it was written in 1940, it was that day, Elul was on Friday. The 17th day of Elul was on Friday. That year, the 18th day of Elul was on Shabbos. So this, you'll understand why the Rebbe writes a Yom Yom for that day. Because on a Friday, we're going to read the Teichacha, the Chitas of the day, the Chumash of the day is 98 curses. The majority of the Parsha is in the Shishi, is in the 6th reading of the Parsha. It's a 98 curses that Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish people. He adds Moshe Rabbeinu because the Veschanan and already Moshe and already God already in Vayikra God already warned the Jewish people and gave them 48 curses. Over here, Moshe Rabbeinu goes 96. He goes all out, and it's a very harsh reading, as you'll see. We'll get to Chitas on Friday. But the Alter Rebbe brings down this story on that Yom Yom Friday. The Alter Rebbe, today is the 17th day. Today it's Wednesday. The Alter Rebbe himself was the regular Torah reader in Liyazna, where he was the Rebbe. Once he was away from Liyazna on Shabbos Parsha Kisavi, he had to go someplace. The Mittel Rebbe was like 11, 12. His son was a young boy, 4 bar mitzvah. He heard the Torah reading from somebody else, had to read the Torah. So he heard the Torah reading from somebody else. When he heard the Teichacha, he heard the reading, he was a young boy. When he heard the reading of the curses, he got And anguish. He had anguish. We couldn't believe what he was hearing. His anguish is that the curses in the Techacha caused him such a headache. He got sick. That it affected him. We're holding you right now in Chai Elul. We have Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, 28 days. We got so sick. He was sick for a whole month. That at Yom Kippur, the Alter Rebbe doubted whether he's gonna be able to fast. I mean, though not to fast, but it was for Bar Mitzvah, but he fasted. But the Alter Rebbe felt maybe he's too sick to fast. Pasha was sick. When they asked the Mittler Rebbe, so he said, he said, I got sick because I heard the techachas, I heard these curses. I got sick. So somebody said to him, I understand, don't you hear the Pasha every year? You heard the Pasha last year. So why did you get sick this year? You heard Pasha Kisaveh last year, so why did you get sick last year? He said, when my father reads it, when I heard it from my father, the Alter Rebbe, he was the Balkara, I didn't hear, over there, when my father read it, I don't hear curses. When my father read it, I never heard curses. My father wasn't there this year. I heard somebody else read it, and I heard the curses. So there's many interpretations to the meaning of the story, but self-assumed meaning is a simple interpretation, to me at least, is when the Alter Rebbe read the Techacha, he heard only blessings. Because we all know that within the Techacha there is blessings. There are certain Mefarshim who actually explain every Techacha as a bracha, as a blessing. There's a Rashi in certain ones where Rashi openly says that you see from this verse that it's actually a blessing. It's not a curse, but it's not always easy to be able to see it. But when the Alter Rebbe read it, his son, his younger son, Bar Mitzvah boy, heard the brachas of the Alter Rebbe. I want to tell everybody that tomorrow we're not going to do chitas because both myself and Rabbi Kramer are going to New York. We have our sole trip to New York. And we're leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning and we're coming back late at night. So it's not going to happen. Maybe Friday we'll do both days, or we'll see what happens. I think it's a short Friday the Techacha. It's be a long chitas. Get ready. But I want to wish you all a great day. I want to wish you a great tomorrow. Hopefully chitas tomorrow by yourself. I apologize. And God should bless all. I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day.
You should have a safe and beautiful